Welcome, colleagues, to this 2021 Conclave of the Scythedom. We are here to make contributions to the ideas of the Scythedom and to discuss what we shall condone and condemn. You may suggest anything in Conclave up to and including the validity of our commandments. However, we must all justify our views and propositions. The Scythe Commandments are the laws which we all have to operate under. Proposal 2 for Conclave comes from the Honourable Scythe Creeggan of EastMerica. Scythe Creeggan states, I propose that we loosen the restrictions of the 9th Commandment. I think that scythes should be allowed to take romantic partners for their own health, and so they don't have to sneak around like Scythe Curie and Scythe Faraday did, which likely caused disruptions in their gleanings. It would be much easier to just allow scythes who want to take partners that privilege, rather than restricting their sexuality, which is very unhealthy, but more importantly could get in the way of their gleaning schedule. Scythes would still not be allowed to have children, as that could raise far too many issues, and a scythe partner is not given the same guaranteed immunity as a family member would have. The scythe can choose to give them immunity, but they are still subject to the rule of showing bias in their giving of immunity. The only major downfall I see to this is scythes abusing their power over others, by, for example, threatening to glean their partner in a domestic argument, or perhaps even before then. Think, if you don't date me, then I'll glean you, that sort of thing, and your whole family. We'd obviously not like to think about scythes being corrupt like this, but it is bound to happen. We can fix this issue by only letting scythes be in relationships with other scythes, as death isn't looming over their head all the time as a threat. It's not possible for a scythe to commit, as the mortals called it, murder of another scythe. Responses from Conclave. Unknown Conclave member. As much as I want to second this, I feel it is not a good idea to repeal the commandment just yet. The founding scythes made it for a reason, and I'm worried allowing scythes to have romantic partners will be abused. Like you said, until we can figure out the best way to go about this, I think we should keep the commandment in place. Scythe Locke of EastMerica. I believe that while you raise good points, Scythe Creeggan, it seems irresponsible to completely remove a commandment on the basis of two lovers who broke the rules. As you state above, there is a huge risk for citizens to be forced into relationship with scythes they do not wish to be with, a callback to the arranged marriages of the age of mortality. And while only letting scythes date other scythes sounds like a valiant solution, the fact is that two scythes dating may get in the way of gleaning more than two scythes sneaking around. With the weight of a full public relationship, your partner must come first, and at the end of the road, we do not want a situation where a scythe refuses to do their duty because of personal involvement. Scythes are supposed to be above all attachment, and adding one of the most important attachments as the first exception would lead to disarray throughout the Scythedom. Besides, I know of a few scythes who would not take a breakup well, and that could lead to gleaning with bias. As always, an excellent contribution from the Honourable Scythe Locke of EastMerica. Scythe Al-Razi of EastMerica. I would agree with the Honourable Scythe Creeggan's proposal. The 9th Commandment could be amended to allow scythes to have relations with one another, although those relations must be kept secret, legal but looked down upon, so to speak. And should a relationship become public, it would be up to the authority of your Scythedom's High Blade to level sanctions against you. A policy of, what is it that the mortals called it? Don't ask, don't tell, except less barbaric. Of course, the Honourable Scythe Locke has a valid argument. Scythes taking a split badly is a possibility, but when in Conclave we can handle ourselves around insults and slights without feeling the need to glean maliciously, we can handle ourselves with this. Furthermore, Scythe Al-Razi states, towards Scythe Creeggan, We all know that some scythes have a more difficult time, to put it one way, staying away from attachment. Just the same as that, it would be up to the two or more sides in question to undertake the responsibility accompanying a relationship and do with it what they will. Scythe Lock responds to Scythe al-Razi. While you have a good point, Scythe al-Razi, what you are suggesting could further destabilise the Scythedom. You propose, if I understand correctly, that we restrict the knowledge of scythe relationships only to other scythes. Do we really wish to hide yet another secret from a public that already regard us in mystery and often fear? Do we wish to risk a scandal exposing the lewd secrets that will no doubt spawn from this amendment? A slip like this could happen from any scythe, yet you suggest that only the two in the relationship be punished. And if you are saying that the relationship must be kept between the two or more scythes, then what are we really changing? Despite the regulations against scythe-on-scythe relations, I'm sure that some of you must engage in natural acts, albeit kept under wraps. Is Scythe al-Razi's proposed alteration really doing anything besides making us admit that there are those among us who are bending the commandments, just like there are so many other scythes have done before, with disastrous consequences? Scythe Diogenes. I believe that it would be rash to repeal an entire commandment. The founders must have had a reason to make said commandment those many years ago, and it would be unwise to do away with a whole commandment. If scythes could enter romantic relationships, they could easily coax civilians into relationships, just for the promise of immunity for them or a loved one. Furthermore, what if a scythe were to sire a child by accident? Would the child be gleaned or left with the parents? Romantic partners could work in theory if it were only scythe on scythe allowed, as you said, but I still believe it ill-advised to do away with the commandment. Scythe Creeggan adds, in relation to children, if a scythe chooses to take a partner who they could theoretically reproduce with, it will be their responsibility to have their reproductive nanites tweaked so they can't father or mother children. While this certainly seems over-controlling or culty, the commandment as a whole already is. Scythe Rosalind Franklin of EastMerica seconds the opinion presented by Scythe Creeggan. Scythe Corinth of Britannia region. I agree with Scythe Creeggan. The founding scythes clearly expected scythes to live almost as monks or stoic philosophers, but we in the Scythedom have many personalities and fulfill our lives in many ways outside of our gleaning. Are we to expect a scythe ordained in their 20s to have no emotions for another person for hundreds of years until they eventually self-glean? As Scythe Creeggan suggests, it will be difficult to maintain relationships with non-scythes. Every scythe would have thousands of people who would show fake love and emotions just for the prestige of being with a scythe or through fear to protect themselves from gleaning. We also must uphold the highest standards in society as commanded. I do not imagine a playboy scythe with hundreds of partners a year would help this aim. Though I am sure there are scythes who indulge this way, they at least maintain a level of privacy. Therefore I believe that loosening the restrictions to allow scythes to have relationships within the Scythedom is acceptable. If children come of these unions, I would propose they are immediately adopted by the Scythedom, but we will always exceed these natural-born scythes with new appointees from outside the Scythedom, so we never make a hereditary aristocracy out of the organisation. An excellent discussion as always, colleagues. With the votes cast, the yeses include Scythe Creeggan, Scythe al-Razi, Scythe Rosalind Franklin, and Scythe Corinth. The noes include Scythe Lock, Scythe Diogenes, and an unnamed scythe. Therefore the yeses have it, and the amendment is passed for loosening restrictions of the 9th Commandment, with the caveat that these relationships will be conducted within the Scythedom. The third question to be put to Conclave comes from Honourable Scythe Zephram Cochrane of Mid-American region. to propose that we establish a sanction against Scythedom activities in outer space.